In the opening scene, we are introduced to a real estate developer, Tynes, who has gone bankrupt and is currently struggling for money. It turns out the main cause of his financial troubles is a bad investment that he made by purchasing a rundown high-rise office building called the Carrington, which he hasn't been able to sell now. He is also unable to attract any tenants because the building still needs much construction and renovation. In addition to Dodge's problem, his wife, Val, is pregnant with their first child, but fortunately, Val is very supportive towards him and always encourages him to be optimistic. Apart from all of this, Dodge frequently experiences painful headaches, for which he has been taking medicine. One day, he visits a company called Tyro Fund in hopes of getting a loan. There, he meets the company's CEO, Miles Sellers, who seems to be well aware of his predicament. Miles agrees to help him and offers a deal: participate in a hunting game, but he has to be prey. Damn, Miles, I'll help ya if I can eat ya. Dodge promptly refuses the offer, but he changes his mind when Miles mentions its rewards in millions of dollars. Miles then explains that Dodge will be hunted by 5 hunters for 24 hours. Every hour he survives, he will have a certain amount of money wired to his bank account from an untraceable offshore account. The hourly rate increases every time he reaches a certain level, and at the end of the game, he'll have $24.5 million. However, Dodge won't know what these hunters look like, as they can be any race or gender. Miles further tells him about the rules. Dodge cannot stop or pause the game once it starts. He cannot tell anyone about it, and he cannot leave the city. If he breaks any of these rules, the game will never end until he dies. Dodge is clearly hesitant, but Miles convinces him by saying that he can make his family financially secure, even if he dies in the game. The scene then cuts to a few days earlier, and we see Dodge jogging in the morning. Here, we learn that he is also a former athlete and a record breaker at the University of Michigan. After completing morning exercise, he returns home and starts preparing breakfast for his wife. Amidst this, he notices several late bills that are yet to be paid. Later that evening, the couple goes out to a bar owned by Dodge's best friend, Luger. Owning a bar with a name that disgusting is true success. Through their conversation, we learn that Luger had also lent him $50,000 for his investment, but he's allowing Dodge to return it back only after overcoming the financial struggle. One morning, Dodge is on his way to work when he suddenly suffers another excruciating headache, causing him to collapse on the road. He's rushed to the hospital, where Val soon joins him. Shortly after, the 2 doctors deliver tragic news. Dodge has terminal brain cancer, and his tumor is inoperable. The news devastates the couple, but Val still urges him to seek treatment from renowned hospitals. However, Dodge reveals that he has already liquidated his insurance policy to cover some expenses, leaving Val in tears. Just before they leave the hospital, a nurse hands Dodge a business card for Tyro Fund, claiming that the company supposedly helps those people with terminal illnesses by hunting them down and gobbling them up. Back in the present, Dodge thinks for a while and ultimately decides to play the most dangerous game. That evening, he lies to his wife that he has closed a great deal with an investor, Jerry Pierce, and the money will come in soon. Early the next morning, he leaves home under the guise of going for a jog, but instead meets Miles at a restaurant. Miles informs him that the game begins at sunrise at 6:46 a.m., and before that, he takes all of Dodge's belongings, including his wallet, virginity, and phone. He does allow him to keep his medications as well as his child's ultrasound. Following this, Miles hands him a new phone, which he can use to check his bank balance. Moreover, the phone will also send his current location to the hunters for 15 seconds every hour. As soon as the clock ticks to 6:46, the game begins, and Dodge starts running through the streets trying not to get killed. He soon boards a bus, but a man also gets in right after him. Suspecting him to be a hunter, Dodge hastily gets off the bus and continues running. On the other hand, Val notices $50,000 being deposited in her husband's account. She tries calling him, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Dodge notices a car tailing him, so he hastily enters a mall. Sensing an imminent threat, he gets into an elevator to escape to the upper floors. As he walks through the corridors, he comes across his first hunter, Nixon, who is a British gentleman. Panicked, Dodge goes to hide in one of the bathroom stalls, but he's soon ambushed. In a swift move, Dodge shoves the hunter aside and bolts away. Back in the mall downstairs, he is intercepted by another hunter, Reagan, a southern cowboy, who leads him towards an empty area. On their way, they double-cross their eyes with Nixon, causing Reagan to get distracted. Dodge uses this opportunity to run away from both hunters and get on a subway train. Apart from all of this, we are introduced to one of Miles's henchmen, Connell, who is responsible for monitoring the game on site and wiping out any evidence left by participants. Moreover, the game is closely surveilled by Miles and his staff members from Tyro Fund headquarters, tracking all of their moves. Elsewhere, Val receives a voicemail from Jerry, from whom she learns that there was no deal between him and Dodge. She again then tries to call her husband, but to no avail. Concerned for his safety, she reaches out to Luger, but he also has no idea about his whereabouts. By this time, she finds that Dodge's bank balance is already increased to $150,000. Following this, Val and Luger visit the bank, intending to find out the source behind these mysterious deposits. However, they end up looking suspicious themselves, prompting them to leave before causing any trouble. The duo then call the police to file the missing complaint, but the officer tells them that they can't take action until the person goes missing for 24 hours. In the next scene, Dodge enters an empty church and hides in a confession room. There, he is approached by Father, who asks about the matter. Dodge then admits that he got engaged in something evil and is struggling hard now. "Did you touch kids?" says the Father. "No, why'd you jump to that?" says Dodge. In the midst of this, he notices a shadow lurking outside the confession room. Believing the person to be a hunter, Dodge attacks him, but he's soon stopped by Father. In an unexpected turn of events, Father reveals himself to be another hunter named Carter. Being a psychologist, Carter claims to have tracked down Dodge's next move and caught him here. He then locks all the doors of the church before launching an attack with his hammer. After a fierce duel between the two, Dodge somehow manages to lock Carter in a small confinement, but not before getting hit with the hammer on his leg. Getting hammered by the Father is not something you just shrug off. In the aftermath, Dodge walks out of the church and calls Miles, confiding in him about his leg injury. However, Miles asks him to tend to his wounds because the game can't be stopped. After this, Dodge purchases some medical supplies and treats himself. Now that he can't run away anymore, he comes up with a plan to blend in with a crowd of spectators who have just finished watching a game. As another hour ticks in, Dodge's location is revealed for 15 seconds, and Nixon drives towards the same place. However, he can't see Dodge because he has disguised himself as one of the spectators by wearing a stolen jersey and a cap. A short while later, Dodge is approached by a street vendor and demands his jersey back. This discussion allows Nixon to notice Dodge, who then rushes to a parking lot and hides in one of the car trunks. Back at home, Val grows increasingly anxious as her husband remains unreachable. Desperate for answers, she goes through his belongings and soon stumbles upon the Tyro Fund business card. By now, Dodge's bank balance has increased to $2.2 million. The car in which Dodge is hiding turns out to be heading towards another city. When he learns of this, he realizes that it's against the game rules, so he starts banging on the trunk. Hearing this, the family inside the car pulls over on the side of the road and opens the trunk. They are startled to find Dodge and hurriedly try to call the police. However, Dodge seizes their phones and throws them away. "They're poisoning your children's minds anyway," before leaving the scene. As the evening dawns, he steals a taxi from the gas station and drives home. However, the hunt isn't over yet. Just when he's heading inside, Carter shows up on his bike and attacks him with a rod. Realizing that it's not safe to go back to his family, Dodge rushes back to the taxi. The sound of the commotion alerts Val, who then looks out to see Dodge driving away. Carter chases him through the road and soon manages to puncture one of the car's tires, slowing it down. He then jumps into the taxi and tries to strangle Dodge from behind. In a desperate bid to save himself, Dodge speeds up the vehicle and crashes into a tree, somehow managing to save himself from any serious injuries. He then approaches the injured Carter, who still vows to kill him next time. When the psychologist further threatens to assault Val, Dodge loses his temper and fatally smashes his head with a cinder block. A while later, Connell reports this incident to Miles before disposing of Carter's body. In the meantime, Val goes to investigate the location mentioned on the business card, only to find the building completely empty. We then see Dodge, who steals a ticket and enters a cruise while hiding from Reagan. Exhausted and hungry, he goes to the kitchen for some food, where he comes across a fourth hunter, Kennedy, who is a martial arts expert. Wasting no time, she attacks Dodge, effortlessly gaining an upper hand in the fight. But as she is about to kill him, he somehow manages to set her clothes on fire. Muay Thai beats Milky White Boy, but fire beats Muay Thai, and run towards the roof. Upon noticing a bridge approaching, he hangs onto it. Kennedy tries to follow him, but he kicks her hand, throwing her into the water. After enduring several more hours of relentless pursuit, Dodge's exhaustion nearly overcomes him, so he decides to give up. Just then, a vehicle approaches, and to his relief, it's Luger. Dodge gets into the car and gulps down a bottle of water, finally quenching his thirst. He hopes that Luger didn't do his thing in this. Luger then asks what's going on, but Dodge simply tells him to drive around for the next hour. Amidst their conversation, they are chased by Nixon. Realizing that his best friend's life is now in danger, Dodge jumps out of the car and flees. While running, he is captured by a group of local thugs who take him to their hideout. The thugs check his phone to discover $15 million in his bank account. In addition, they identify that his medication is fake, pharmaceutical gangsters, which leaves Dodge astonished. However, the thugs are solely interested in his money and demand that he transfer it right away. With only 2 minutes before his location gets exposed, Dodge tries to warn the thugs about the impending threat threat, but they don't believe him and instead start beating his ass up. Just then, they're interrupted by LBJ, the final hunter, who opens fire, taking down the thugs one after another, but when he heads to finish Dodge off, an injured thug shoots from behind, resulting in his death. In the aftermath of this event, Dodge goes to the same hospital where he was previously admitted and asks a nurse about his medication. Much to his surprise, the nurse confirms that it's fake and that there are no records of him ever being admitted there. This makes him realize that he doesn't have a terminal illness and that he was set up to make him accept the game. He instantly calls Miles to confront him about the deception and threatens to hunt him down now. However, Miles remains unfazed and asserts that Dodge doesn't know his real name or where he can find him. On the contrary, he knows everything about Dodge and his family. As they converse, Miles discloses another shocking revelation. Luger is the one who accepted $50,000 to drug Dodge and drag him into the game. Never trust a man named Luger. The crime boss further instructs Dodge to complete the hunt game, promising to release him after that. Upon knowing all of this, Dodge quickly calls Val from a telephone booth and explains everything briefly. He also discloses Luger's participation in all of it and alerts her to stay away from him. Hearing this, Val, who is currently at Luger's place, tricks him and walks away, but on the way, she's abducted by some fake police officers who take her to Miles as a hostage. With 90 minutes remaining for the game to end, Dodge sets up traps in an abandoned building in order to take down the remaining hunters, Nixon, Reagan, and Kennedy. Not long after, the three of them arrive at the location and eagerly head to take down their prey. Reagan is the first one to find Dodge. They get into a brawl until the hunter gets his hand ensnared in a beam. Shortly after, Dodge is approached by Kennedy from behind, but before she can attack him, Luger shows up in the nick of time and shoots her to death. Luger then explains his innocence, claiming that he didn't deceive Dodge and that Miles just bluffed about it. The two best friends then make their way out of the building, but not before blowing off the place. The explosion claims Reagan's life, while Nixon narrowly escapes. After this incident, Connell arrives at the scene to clean up the evidence as usual, but this time, he's apprehended by Dodge, who holds him at gunpoint and demands his wife's whereabouts. In response, Connell discloses that she's captured in the Carrington. With this information, Dodge rushes to the building and finds his wife bound there. He quickly unties her and shares an emotional hug. However, their moment is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of Nixon. He chases Dodge to the rooftop and eventually corners him. As they fight, Dodge slips off and hangs on the building's ledge. Nixon then prepares to stab him, but at the same time, he sees the sun rise. As a result, he puts his weapon away and politely helps Dodge by pulling him up. Turns out it's been 24 hours and the game is finally over. Nixon congratulates him for a good game and walks away. After this, Val reunites with Dodge and the two share an emotional embrace. Just then, he receives a call from Miles, who congratulates Dodge for winning the game as well as the prize money. Season 1 ends as Miles heads to another city in search of new prey for another game. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.